Hey everyone, welcome back to the Nello Reads channel. Our first malicious compliance story of the day comes from Bear MC. Boss said no shorts. I work at an office that sells bulk goods to businesses like retail outlets. Our office doesn't usually have a strict dress code, but we recently got a new boss who is quite literally the stick up my butt. He's constantly yelling at everyone about basic crap like punching in a minute or two late/early, or being a word or two off the script during outbound/inbound calls. Dealing with him in general has made me hate this job more. As it's getting hotter, I've been wearing khaki shorts to work for the past few days, which is something I've always done for the past few years, and nobody has confronted me about it before. So I figured nothing would change this year. But boy was I wrong. About halfway through my shift, this boss comes to my desk, realizes I'm wearing shorts, and is visibly annoyed. He mutters something under his breath and goes back to his office. An hour later, I was called into his office where he proceeded to berate me about breaking the dress code. He was fuming and ended the meeting with, "From now on, you follow the dress code to the book or you're fired." Say no more, boss. That night, I went home and read up on the dress code rules. There was, in fact, a rule against shorts, so I was annoyed but kept on. And then I found it. There is no rule preventing males from wearing skirts/kilts. Here's where I devised my plan. I immediately ordered a pink and white striped kilt online, as well as matching knee-high socks and a shirt. There were no rules stated in the dress code against any of this, surprisingly. About a week later, the clothes arrived, and here is what ensued the following workday. I walked in wearing my new pink business outfit, and immediately the whole office was staring at me. The boss, who came in to cover another boss's shift in the morning, was beet red in the face and yelled at me to come into his office. He goes on a 10-minute rant about how I'm a useless employee and that he's going to fire me for not following the dress code to a T. I simply stated, I am in dress code. I urge you to read the employee handbook. He ended up reading the whole thing in front of me, and I could see him getting more and more angry as he realized I didn't break any rules. I asked him, "Am I free to go back to work?" And he looked at me with a death glare, muttered something under his breath, and waved me off. I don't know why, but I have a slight feeling that the dress code was rewritten a few weeks after this went down. But a little part of me hopes that it wasn't, and OP just wears that pink outfit to work every day now. Our next story comes from Curious Cat 0070. Investigator Karen's demands. Many years ago, in a previous life, I was an investigator in a robbery/homicide/vice section of the organization. I had a partner, Karen, whom I worked well with for the preceding year. I had been warned about her backstabbing behavior in other sections, but I foolishly ignored it. Leading up to the incident, she had been assigned 3 child exploitation cases that all she had to do was confirm the facts of the case, and she would have probable cause to go obtain warrants. In spite of my reminders to perform the tasks, she waited until the 11th hour and then went on vacation without having completed the tasks. So I did it for her. When she got back, she could now go to a judge without further action. When she returned, she was livid and accused me of stealing her work. I said if she had done that for me, I would have bought her lunch. From that point on, our professional relationship deteriorated, and I recalled the warnings I was given about Karen that mirrored my experience. A couple of months later, our idiot supervisor mistakenly assigned Karen and I the same case. I made contact with members of the task force and spoke with the officer who originated the case. Karen overheard my last conversation and blew her stack, saying words to the effect of, "You're stealing my work again. I was assigned that case. You're trying to make me look bad." I calmly explained that the idiot supervisor assigned me the case, and I showed her the paperwork. She had none of that, though. I offered to buy her breakfast and talk it out, but she told me to F off and added, "You do not do anything on my case without my permission. Do you understand?" So I relinquished the case. For the next month, Karen tried to throw me under the bus for anything and everything, going into the idiot supervisor's office and complaining about me. I'd get called into the idiot supervisor's office for a 16-minute coffee break or other such nonsense. Well, a triple homicide case came down the pipe, and she wanted it bad, schmoozing the idiot supervisor to give her the case. Rather than ask me personally, she had the idiot supervisor approach me to do the forensics portion. I told him that I was told not to do anything on her case without her permission, and I didn't want to get in trouble or upset her, so I was going to need permission for everything in writing before I did it. I needed permission to pack the forensic kit, exactly how many paper bags, plastic bags, etc., how many markers, how many swabs. I would need her written permission to enter the crime scene, how many entry photos, what distance, how would I collect each piece of evidence, how would I label them. I told the idiot supervisor to make sure she understood that, because I was not to do anything on her case without her permission. He scurried off and then returned a short time later and told me that she didn't want the case and that it was mine. One thing I have to point out is not only did OP just say supervisor, every time they typed idiot supervisor, and that is some real dedication that I can respect. Our third story comes from Adventurous Card 9994, How the Parking Space Was Won. Gather round, kids, for today I will tell you the magnificent tale about how our parking space was conquered. For a bit of backstory, years ago my husband and I worked for the same company in the same team. One day, we received the news that our company was going to move to a much bigger building on a whole new construction site. And more good news, on the new site, there was the possibility to get a parking space from the company. This was great news for us, because we just bought our own house out of the city, so we needed to drive to and from work every day. Summer came, and we all moved into the new building and made ourselves at home. We asked about getting a parking space, and were told we had to fill out an application and hand it in to HR to get one. The company only had a few spaces, so they were handed out via first come, first served principle. Fine with us, we immediately filled out an application and made sure we were one of the first ones to do so. Days went by, and there was no news about our parking space. After 2 weeks of waiting, we contacted HR ourselves to ask about it. Imagine our surprise when we heard that we didn't get a space because apparently we were too late to hand in our application. We immediately knew this was BS because we filled out ours in the first week of moving in, and we heard through office gossip that there were a few people who got a space that didn't fill out an application at all. No surprise that these were the exact same people who were the boss's favorites. But hey, what is a company without some good old nepotism, right? My husband and I were pissed. Because we didn't get a space, we had to find our own parking place every single day. The closest place to park near our building was on a nearby construction site. It was loud, dusty because construction workers were always working, and we had to walk for 10 minutes on a busy and dangerous road just to get to our office. We complained about this situation to our team lead multiple times, but her answer was always that there was nothing she could do. One day, when we came in a little late, the road we always walked on was blocked, and we had to take a detour. We got an earful from her for being late, and we just had enough. We told her about first having to find a place to park, then having to walk in the mud to our office, and we said that we wanted a parking space. Our team lead exploded at us. "It's a bit of mud, deal with it. I don't want to hear another word about it." Then we looked at each other and thought, fine. We knew we would have our revenge. Summer came and went, and a few weeks later, the beginning of autumn announced itself. In our country, the beginning of autumn is usually accompanied with heavy winds, colder weather, and lots of rain. One particular Monday, we went to work and knew that was our moment. It had started to rain on Saturday morning, and it didn't stop until Sunday night. When we arrived at our usual construction site, we knew we hit the jackpot. The rain had turned the entire site into a wonderful Mudfest 2019. We got out of the car and sank immediately ankle deep in thick brown mud. But hey, we had a job to do, so we walked our way across the mud into our office. Our shoes were soaking wet and completely covered with sticky mud when we walked into the building. To make matters worse, we decided that we had to go to the bathroom and then to the break room before we sat down on our desks. The expensive, brand new royal blue carpet that was only in place for a few months was completely covered with muddy shoe prints. It was enough to make Hansel and Gretel jealous. We logged in like usual until our team lead arrived. She made a noise and a movement as if she was having a heart attack, a brain aneurysm, and a stroke all at the same time. She stormed to our desks and began yelling, "What the heck did you do to the carpet?" We calmly explained that it had rained and everything outside was muddy, and since we had no parking space, we had no choice than to drag through the mud. She weakly protested, But look at the carpet. The boss will be furious." Me and hubby looked at each other and said, "It's just a bit of mud. You told us to deal with the situation, so we did." She stared at us for a few moments, opened and closed her mouth, and was desperately thinking of something to say at us. Finally, she just let out a frustrated, "Ugh," and walked away. We started working and didn't see her until late in the afternoon. We did apologize to the cleaning crew who had to clean the whole mess. It wasn't their fault that they got dragged into this, but they had to deal with the consequences. Later that day, my husband got an email from HR saying that they took another look at the parking situation, and lo and behold, he was assigned a parking space after all. Gee, I wonder what changed their minds. Owning a car is so nice, but parking sucks, especially in big cities. Like, I've probably spent maybe days of my life just looking for a parking space. It's sort of ridiculous. Personally, I can't wait until cars can drive themselves, and I can tell my car to go find a space while I go in, or I don't know, maybe pick up food for me in a drive-thru. Someone could probably just throw the food through the window. Our next story is from DarkCloud1111. Pizza shop owner told me not to show up after 10:15, so I didn't. This story took place a few years ago, but I just remembered it after passing by the shopping center this pizza place used to be in. Background information. At the time, I was working for a window cleaning company and was paid commission. I got paid a fraction of whatever I cleaned. At the beginning of the day, we would be given a list of jobs in an area and drive around until everything was done. Usually the routes were somewhat random, meaning it was rare to get the same route twice in a row. Most routes had a large number of restaurants that had to be done before they opened, so usually we would have to plan out when to get to the job based on what time they arrived, so we wouldn't have to backtrack. The route in question will be called Springfield, but this route also had two small pizza places in the next town over, Shelbyville, that were always included because the company did not have any other jobs in that area, and Springfield was the closest town. Both of these jobs didn't usually show up until around 10:15 to 10:30, so I would often have to save them until all my other restaurants were done before making the 15-minute drive over. There also wasn't enough work on this route to justify sending two people, so whoever had it was by themselves. To the actual story. So, one morning I'm driving out to Shelbyville and stop at my first job at around 10:20. This job is cheap, consisting of about one big window and a door. However, the lights were completely off and no one replied when I knocked. So I left to do the other job in my area before returning at around 10:40 to see someone inside. At that point, I get my stuff out and start cleaning the outside, only for the owner to see me and come storming to the door. In a very angry voice, he starts asking me what the heck I thought I was doing. When I explained that I was cleaning the windows, as if it wasn't already apparent, he yelled at me that I should have been there earlier, to which I told him what time I was originally there, that the lights were out, and no one answered when I knocked. The owner assured me he was there, but that he just likes to sit in the back office with all the lights out, and next time I should knock harder. Lastly, before I left, after he refused to pay for the outside I had already done, he yelled that if you can't be here before 10:30, don't even bother coming at all. The malicious compliance. It was around this time that, back in Springfield, my boss had picked up another restaurant that was about 10 times more expensive, but had the same issue of people not showing up until around 9:45 to 10 to allow me to clean the inside. This meant that every time I had this route, I had to pick between a job that cost $10 or a job that cost $100. I picked the more expensive one. Because this new place was so much bigger, even if I did the outside before they got there, it would still take me at least 20 to 30 minutes to finish the inside. Because of this, I wouldn't even start driving out to Shelbyville until almost 10:30. As a result, I took what that owner said to heart and stopped showing up. Also, because of some weird twist of fate, I ended up getting this route multiple times in a row. So this guy hadn't been cleaned for 6 months straight before someone else eventually had to do it. It became even funnier for me, as during those 6 months, we picked up a dry cleaner right next door to him that I would clean while staying just out of sight of the pizza place. It also somehow slipped past my bosses that I hadn't been doing this one job, as it never came up. When my coworker went to go clean it, the owner apparently thought we had gone out of business or something, as he hadn't seen us in so long. Shortly after, he canceled service altogether, then went out of business maybe another 2 months after that. I don't know why, but this last bit of the story reminds me of when you sign up for a subscription like Netflix, don't use it for 6 months, and then all that time later go, oh, that's where all my money has been going. No clue how OP's company bills people, but hopefully it's after someone shows up and not monthly. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and I'll see you in the next video.